Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for Get Animated, Steps into Integrating the Core Curriculum in Animation. I'm Christy Calloway, the Executive Director for Art Schools Network, and we are happy to be bringing you this production today. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to carve out 30 minutes with us now, and if not now, later. This will be on demand and available to everyone. We do understand that you guys are all at different locations with different internet connections and abilities for sound and sight, and knowing how important it is in an instructional module to have both, we want you to know that we are recording this session and we'll be posting it up on our website and YouTube so that you're able to watch this at your leisure with sound and all sight and animations included. So who is Art Schools Network? Well, we were formed over 30 years ago by 12 leaders of art schools across the nation that decided they wanted to get it together and get smarter. Our mission is to promote excellence in arts education by supporting and recognizing students, leaders, educators, schools, institutions, and organizations. Our vision is to be the resource for art schools leaders and best practice models. We are dedicated to our school leaders through our goals to support the 4 areas of best practices, college and career pathways, elementary and middle art schools, and leadership. We've provided communications programs, services, and events to support these goals for more than 30 years. And together, our membership represents the leaders of schools and organizations from around the world that share their experiences and expertise in areas of planning, facilities, finance, fundraising, admissions, recruitment, teacher training, arts integration, community and parent relations, and more. We hope you'll join us in New York City, October 22nd through the 25th, where we'll be getting it together, learning and sharing with each other about what's happening in the Common Core in one of the most exciting cities in the nation. A few of our hosts include the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, LaGuardia High School for the Arts, Juilliard School, Lincoln Center Institute, Manhattan School of Music, New York University Tisch School of the Arts, the New School, and more. Today, I am thrilled to be able to present and share with you one of the beginning of our mini webinar series, this one called Getting Animated, Steps to Integrating the Core Curriculum and Animation in the Elementary Classroom. Thanks to our sponsor, Toon Boom and partner, Bluffton Elementary was recognized by our organization a couple of years ago for an Arts Innovation Award in using the animation arts to teach the core curriculum. We brought them to our conference, and their partners, Toon Boom, were such an immediate must-have partner that we decided to extend this relationship with them and ask them to be one of our webinar providers, and that is to tell us how you can use animation in your classroom. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark McClellan and Celia Miller so they can tell us their successes they've had at Bluffton Elementary School in South Carolina and how you too can do the same. Mark?
Great. Thank you very much, Christy. And welcome, Celia. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Yes, thank you, Christy. Thank you, Mark.
And I want to reiterate Christy's message and thank you for taking the time to join us. We've had a great time working with Art Schools Network, and I've known Celia now for almost 2 years. We've done some great stuff, and we're very happy to have the opportunity to share the methodology and the great success that, that Bluffton has had.
Mark, I want to interrupt you. I failed to say a little bit about you, and I'd like to do that really quickly, that you represent Toon Boom Animation's education team, and that you work with educators all across North and South and Central America, and you're looking for ways to use animation in the classrooms. And before Toon Boom, you worked for a hardly ever heard of company called Apple, I believe.
Yeah,
and we're so grateful that you have gone from Apple to education with us. And then Celia, again, I would just want to quickly mention where she's from. She's an animation teacher at Bluffton Elementary, and she graduated from Georgia Southern in '07, where she taught for a couple of years, then went down and became a teacher at Bluffton Elementary for the last couple of years, and she's getting all kinds of recognition for her animation program, and she is a highly sought after model teacher for animation in the Common Core presentations. Thank you for letting me remember that a little too late.
Wow, thank you, Christy. That was great.
And that's why I feel so honored to have a co-presenter like Celia, because as you said, my background is Apple, and so technology I understand, but what Celia brings to these talks with me is the pedagogic side and her vast experience now in using animation in class curriculum. And so that's why when we did a previous talk, and the number one question was, okay, this is really interesting, but how do we do it? I immediately thought of Celia and bringing her in to share. So if we jump to the next slide, Christy, we entitled this "The Steps to Integrating Animation with Curriculum." And so really the first step is getting students animating. And that can be, some people feel that's a bit of a daunting task. But I want to point out before I hand over to Celia that more than 90% of the teachers that I work with when I go in to do workshops at schools have never animated before. And they're not, in some cases they're artists, but in some cases they're not. But in many cases, in almost all cases, they're not animators. So we have the tools and resources to help you get your students up and animating. And that's what Toon Boom's specialty is. So Toon Boom is the world leader in two-dimensional animation software and content creation. And 90%, 80-90% of the cartoons that you see on Saturday mornings are created with Toon Boom software. And so we have those expertise that we can bring to the classroom. So I don't want any educators on the line who are apprehensive about integrating animation to be scared, because that's what we are there to help with. And as a movement grows, there's always that tertiary support group that grows up. And so, in our case, we have institutions like Animated Tutor and the Acme Network, who we aren't directly tied to, but who are support animation and who can guide you through using animation in your classroom. And then, of course, YouTube is the central repository for everything these days. And if you simply were to do a Google search, a search in YouTube for Toon Boom, you would find all kinds of amateur and professional instructional videos. So lots of resources out there. So I'm going to ask Celia to speak briefly just on that point in terms of getting students animating. And so Celia, can you share with everybody on the call how you introduce animation?
Absolutely. So I wasn't, and just to kind of touch up on what you were saying, I don't have any animation background whatsoever. I do have a little bit of an art background, and I went to school to be an art educator, but at no point did I ever take any animation courses. So a lot of this was all taught, well, actually all of it was self-taught. And now I'm teaching animation to students, and first thing we do is I like to give them a little history on animation. I just teach them that animation is the illusion of movement, that the cartoons and everything that they see on television or at the movies, that those aren't real fish in the sea or ogres or whatever, that those are characters that are either drawn on paper or created on the computer. And the computer aids in making them come to life. So once they have a little bit of an appreciation of animation, we can use Flip Boom to create some of their own now that they have a little bit more of an understanding of it. It's very simple. I go through a few lessons at the beginning. The very first thing we always do is we create a bouncing ball. I think that's pretty standard for any animation course. And the students are always able to do it right off the bat because I ask them, you just need to learn how to draw a somewhat straight line and a circle, and you've got it. And so for the most part, that's really encouraging for them because just that first day, they've already made their first animation. And from there, I teach them a few other lessons that kind of step up on each other and teaches them different tools in the program that they can use to create their own animation. And from there, once they have a little bit of a foundation with animation, is when we start to integrate with their classroom curriculum.
Great. And I would just add that when I go in and do a workshop at a school, be it with teachers or students, we split into two halves. In the morning, we learn the software. And in under 2 hours, we can have students up and animating, and actually that's what we call it, up and animating, in those 2 hours very effectively. And by the end of the afternoon, they're outputting their own creation. And so it's one of those things that we all have experienced, be it in the classroom or with. Hello.
Sorry, that was me. That was Christy. I hit speed dial on the mouse. I don't know what I did. I apologize, everyone.
That's okay. We're just seeing if we were paying attention, right?
Yes, I'm glad you are.
We're all still here.
Wow, with that, I lost my, anyway, within a day, within a morning, students can learn the software and be animating. So no need to be apprehensive about students' ability to pick up not only the software, but the concept of animation. So we are on to step 2. And what I call the process, but as I travel North America, depending on where I am, I've learned I have to sometimes call it the process. The process that we talk about is really something that was developed in conjunction with Bluffton Elementary and based on an animation industry workflow. And the reason for that is because it's a proven workflow. And so I think Celia and I are just going to walk through this step by step, and we can discuss a little bit more. So if we can just back up one slide there, Christy, there we go. So step 1, Celia, do you want to speak to the identification of a standard?
Sure. When it comes to the teachers choosing what content they want to be animated in the classroom, sometimes the teachers and I kind of work together and decide what's best for the students. And it could be it could be based on whether the content is challenging for the students. If the teacher feels that she has tried a number of things to get a certain standard across to the students and they're still struggling with it, she might try to have the students come into the classroom and animate it, because then it's taking a different approach and it's allowing them to be creative and and one thing about animation, if you don't already know or if you aren't very familiar with it, is that animations are made by several frames, and so it's a very repetitive process. So if they don't know the information at the beginning of the project, then they're likely to know it by the end, because they have to do it over and over again. And I know that Mark also has a good story that he tells about his daughter that also reinforces that. But another thing is that, or another way that teachers can use it in their classroom is also as kind of a unit closing project, something that the students can create at the end of a unit that the teachers can look back and assess what they've learned through that unit. So you can really kind of choose how it is that you want to integrate this into your classroom.
Perfect. And so once that's been identified, and in the case of Bluffton, obviously, there is a unique implementation, unique in the area, not everywhere, but given that Celia focuses really on animation in her classroom or in her lab, which is a computer lab, but and so we're going to reference that model as we speak today, but once again, the model can be adapted to fit any situation. And really this, as we walk through the next steps, you'll see that we've tried to take into consideration that computers are a finite resource in most schools. And so the use of pencil and paper is still focused on. and works very well for this model. So stage 2, or step 2, is the inquiry stage. And depending on the standard that has been decided upon, this is either something that is done in classroom teaching, or if it's project-based or problem-based learning, it may be done by individual students or by groups of students. And so the inquiry stage leads into writing. Now, the writing is important, and this is one of the reasons why animation serves to reinforce reading and writing. But as you'll see as we move into the next slide, that from writing we go into storyboarding. Now, depending on the subject that's chosen, sometimes the focus is put more on storyboarding. And do you want to speak to that a bit, Celia? Do you have anything to say? Do you want to add anything there?
Sure. I feel like the storyboarding process is one of the most important parts of the process that we do in the classroom. The teachers, because both the teachers and myself have a hand in the storyboarding process. I have certain expectations as to what I want the students to include as far as production goes and creativity, but then the classroom teacher is going to be looking for the content and those standards into that storyboard. Their storyboard should be completed before starting any animation. We want to see how their animation is going to work and how it's going to look from the beginning, the middle, to the end. So this is a good time where this is proofreading. The students know they make sloppy copies or rough drafts for many of their other classes, and this is the same for that. This is their sloppy copy, is what I call it, for their animation.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a technical industry term, but I might recommend that they start using floppy copy as something in the industry.
Write it down.
So, yeah, and I'll just read it. Storyboarding is important, very important, and is the core and the basis of any project. And then the storyboard artist is a sought-after profession in the animation and live action and film industry. So a very important part, and that really serves as an opportunity for students to also solidify their characters and their scenes. And so we find that if students don't take the time before getting to the computer lab to have their main characters and scenes set up and designed, that they spend a lot of time spinning their wheels trying to figure out what their main character is going to look like. So very important from the production standpoint, but also, as Celia mentioned, from a critical thinking standpoint, the setting of beginning, middle, end, and helping students work through the problem solving.
Absolutely,
So
and this is just a template, excuse me, sorry Mark, but this is
Yeah.
just a template that we have posted for everyone to see, but I have stacks and stacks of storyboards that I'm happy to scan in and share with you guys. I'm sure that Christy and I can get together and find where we can post them, and if you have any specific projects that you were looking at, I could definitely see if I had anything that related to it as well. Okay.
Yeah, great, thanks. That's a great point. And this example and the one on the previous slide, actually, I grabbed them from an organization called Learn Quebec. And they're an organization that we've done work with in Canada. And included on one of the later slides, I have a link to their resources so people can download them and use them as reference in your own classroom projects. So then, of course, the next step, step 5, is the animation, which is, obviously the fun part. And this is the carrot at the end of the stick that the students have been working to get to. So the question that I always get asked about animation is, how long does it take? And so my standard answer is, it depends on the standard that's chosen. But I'm going to let Celia expand a little bit on traditionally how long it takes students to complete animations.
Well, you're absolutely right when you say it depends on the standard that's chosen, Mark, because we've had some things that have been done or completed within 1 to 2 class periods, whether it's 3rd grade when the students are just learning how to identify verbs. The students will come into the classroom and they can animate a verb. So jumping, skipping, bouncing, things like that, they are identifying those verbs in their animations. That's something that can be very quickly done. Then all the way up to 5th grade, some students, or their assignment would be creative writing. So they have to write their own stories, including characters that might have a problem or conflict that needs to be solved. And so then from there, they've got character design. They're constructing their own story. It needs a plot. It needs a setting. And so that one's going to be a little bit longer of an animation. So really, it's adjustable to whatever you're trying to have animated in your, or whatever standard you feel would be right for your students. You know, you can have it as a big unit assignment, as a big portion of their grade, or you could just have these smaller exercises that could be knocked out within 1 to 2 class periods as well.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, and certainly not least, is the presentation and the peer sharing. You know, and this is something that I admittedly, when I first started with Toon Boom, missed, but very quickly saw the benefit of it. And so when I do workshops, I make sure that I set aside a part of the day, usually half an hour at the end of the day, to make sure that students share their animations with each other. And there's a variety of reasons. First and foremost, really is from a student standpoint, an individual student standpoint, is the self-confidence. And students who may have been struggling at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of the session are able to share this animation that they've created, and in many cases, you know, their peers are very surprised at the quality of what they've been able to create. But as well, it also allows students who traditionally don't shine in other areas to perhaps share something that they are particularly good at. And oftentimes that's the case. Celie, can you share some examples of what you see in classrooms with students that have completed animations?
Sure. I have a number of students that would fit exactly into what you're saying, where they are actually students with special needs, where they don't excel in every subject area, but however they have this great artistic ability. And when they're mixed in with their regular classroom, they're given this assignment, and some of their peers may actually be struggling with it or find it more challenging, where this is something that they can just breeze on through, and then the rest of the class will be really focused into that one student's animation and kind of give him or her the confidence and make them feel good about themselves.
In fact, you guys don't even have enough time to go into this whole other sideways line of thinking, but we're getting questions about student achievement being increased, and is there a way to like single out the variable of this intervention model? And that's actually what brought y'all to our attention at Art Schools Network, was that you actually did have state report card data around how not only the self-confidence but literally the gains in math were just so impressive in just less than a year. And while you certainly can't isolate all the variables out, I mean, there are definitely some loose cause and effect or correlative marks for intervening with animation, or not even intervening, just adding it to. And I know that you guys flipped an existing computer lab into this, and there's so many ways you could go from a singleton seat all the way up to dedicated labs. And I know I'm babbling because I just answered the question, but the question that I just saw come across was the academic, the Common Core correlation. And I know you're going to run out of time really fast here.
We do incorporate Common Core standards as well. We're switching over to Common Core next year, actually. The whole school is being pushed out on it, and so it's something that we're definitely going to try and include with animation.
Well, you've already been doing it in that you were achieving your local standards, your state standards, which are with your own acceptable yearly progress reporting upwards through South Carolina to the feds. And that's what I was referring to in your state report card. So I apologize, I caught you all off guard on that one.
Oh, no, you're fine.
One of your concrete examples that you have in this presentation today that I don't want to lose track of is this animation project with the moon, and then the next subsequent one with fractions.
Yeah, so we wanted to share with you, before we close off, a couple of examples where animation is being used actually in class. So Celia, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about the phases of the moon example that you recently did. Can you walk folks through that?
Sure. Right now I think we're looking at basically a checklist or a rubric that the students are given at the very beginning of the assignment, when the assignment's first introduced to them, so they know what it is that they need to include in their storyboard and in their animation. This is compiled of things that the expectations that come from me as the animation teacher, and then also from their science teacher, and what she will be looking for in their animation. And in this case, it's all the different phases to include all, I believe, 8 phases of the moon. So then we can go ahead and probably switch to the animation.
I love this. So cute.
And you can kind of hear her through, I think, Christy. But if you can't hear her very well, she is actually reading along with her animation as the moon is switching from the different phases, from one phase to another, whether it's full moon, waxing gibbous, and so on. She's reading along with those, and she was able to do that in Toon Boom, or in Flip Boom. She was able to record her voice to go along with her animation. But then also, as the moon pops in, I say it pops, but as it becomes one of those phases, it does make a popping noise, and that's one of the sound clips that comes with the program also. So Toon Boom has the capability to record your voice to it. You have the option of importing sound, and it also has some of its own sounds. And then the students were able to type. This Flip Boom All-Star has the option for the students to be able to type in, whereas I think it's Flip Boom, or Toon Boom, I'm sorry, the students are writing their words into their animation.
Yes, exactly. And so just before I move on to the Toon Boom curriculum example, Celia, can you speak to what the results of doing that Phases of the Moon activity were for the students?
This project was given to 2 out of 4 of our 4th grade classes. And at the end, when all 4 of the 4th grade classes were given the unit test, all of these students were able to correctly label the phases of the moon because they had to draw it in a number of frames to create their animation. It's very repetitive, so they were able to retain that information.
Do the repetition, right? Yeah, exactly. Because we're drawing near the end, I just want to quickly touch on the example, because this example curriculum, actually not this exact one, but the water cycle curriculum is available for with a trial download that we're going to give everybody access to. But this just gives a quick outline or an example of the curriculum that Toon Boom provides as examples. And these can be used directly by students, or they can be used as a framework for teachers, or teachers can use these as the first go-round for students and then build on after this. So if we just go and we have a quick animation that we provide as well to serve as an inspiration for students. Oh, there's the great music in the background. And so you'll see it's very naive in its drawing. But the students in the curriculum are shown how to do all the steps and stages, and then depending on the project, they can expand on that, add more to it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a quick example of what we provide, and there are a number of both cross curriculum and art curriculum. So with that, I will say thank you for your time. If there's a couple questions that you think we might want to address, Christy, coming through, that's great. And while we deal with that, you might want to jump to the next slide, which has some links to resources.
Okay.
And as Christy mentioned, these will be, with the recording, these will be posted, but we will also send out a follow-up email, and I will include all of these links.
There was a question. Thanks, Mark. This is great, and I want y'all to know we are posting this recording on our website either late tonight, tomorrow, or the next day, so it'll be up, and you can share it with your faculty or anyone else. The wrap-up question I'll throw out sounds to me, I'm going to combine about 6 questions here about professional development, and they want to know what does that look like? How will they learn to do what earlier it sounded like Celia was self-taught, which is an impressive testament to the software, but also how can they expect to be supported?
So there are a number of ways, and the first one that I'll mention is that for ASN member schools, Toon Boom offers a bundle that we don't really offer anywhere else that includes professional development on site. And so one of our professional certified trainers will come to your school or district and do professional development and walk through right from the beginning stages of animation and the software, and we'll get as deep down in the weeds in animation as a teacher wants to go, because these are the same people that are visiting Burbank and Hollywood studios that do animation. On top of that, we also have online training and on-demand training. And then, of course, those other resources that you see listed here, the third-party organizations that are also very involved and provide videos for both teachers and students. So there's a great wealth of professional development available, and I'm happy to speak to anybody further about it who's interested.
Mark, thank you. Celia, thank you. And all of our audience members, a special thank you to making a part of this a part of your busy day. And again, we'll be sending this link to this recording to you shortly afterwards, either today, tomorrow, or at least by the weekend. And we will also be sharing your contact information you provided upon registration with Mark and Celia so they can personally reach out to you and thank you. We appreciate you again. Have a great day, have a great evening, have a great week. Keep doing the good things that you do. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.